Welcome back to the channel. You can see I'm wearing the same clothes I've been wearing in a couple different videos. This is my new strategy. I basically sit down, make a whole bunch of videos in one go, and then kind of drip release them over a period of time, twice a week or something like that. It works with my more busy life now where I can't like sit down and make a video a day or whatever, or 2 videos a week, but I can sit down at a certain time, make the content for a whole bunch, and then kind of gradually edit the videos and put them together over time. So that's kind of how it's working for me. So just if you were wondering, if you're new to this channel, then that probably meant nothing to you. But anyway, this video here, I'm going to talk about the current state of the sports card content creation space. I want to think about YouTube in particular. How are things going with content creation? Are there missing elements? Are there things where other creators could be stepping in to fill in some of the gaps? Just generally, what is going on in the world of sports card YouTube content creation, and what are people interested in these days? So let's get into it. Now, I think this is an interesting topic because in some ways, the sports card content creation, it doesn't necessarily parallel the sports card hobby completely. I mean, there's certain things that are not really, that are highlighted more in content creation that would not be as big of a deal in general. It's kind of like, in sports card content creation, there's certain topics that make for good videos. Like a vlog of a card show, if it's done right, is entertaining to watch. Whereas, somebody selling cards on eBay, it's more difficult to make an entertaining video that just highlights your sales on eBay. Things that are more active, more engaging, more vlog style, this sort of thing. Like that just makes for a more entertaining thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's on the minds of the most of the hobby or anything like that. Because, there's a lot of content creation out there that is fascinating, like from a historical standpoint. I wish I could remember the content creator. There's like History Through Cards or something like that. There's this one content creator. He speaks very monotone and very much like makes me kind of want to fall asleep a little bit. But at the same time, the content that he's sharing is fascinating. There's history in there and different stories that he's sharing that are phenomenally interesting. But those videos don't get that many views. And it's mostly because of the nature of YouTube, of the nature of the way that content is created nowadays, of kind of needing more energy and more fast-paced kind of stuff in order to, to keep people's interest. People don't have that much of a attention span anymore, it seems. This is old man speak, get off my lawn, yelling at the clouds. But it does seem like, people's attention span is pretty low. So the content that people watch tends to be a little bit more fast-moving kind of things, with the exception of a few channels. There are certain channels like the Baseball Card Collector Investor Dealer who, his videos are pretty slow paced. His videos are kind of just somebody talking, kind of just, just various history things, various things. But he got a lot of people listening to his videos, which is great. But that's a rarity. You have to be a rare channel to find that. I just wanted to mention that because I think part of the thing, because I think sometimes people think that the sports card content creation as a reflection of the hobby in general, and I don't think it's quite so cut and dry. I think it's a reflection of a portion of the hobby, but there's all sorts of other elements of the hobby that just don't lend themselves well to being recorded in a video kind of context. And so those kinds of things aren't seen in the social media sphere, which is fine. This is just the way it is. It's fine. No big deal. But then within the sports card content creation space, there's a few spaces that seem to get a lot more kind of engagement. And a lot of it's, sharing of personal opinions, market, what's happening with the market, what's happening with the news, this scam, that scam, what's happening, this content creator caught for this person caught for that, this person kind of finding, doing watchdog stuff. It seems like that kind of the drama of things gets a lot of the focus, as well as the kind of like, what am I trying to do now, vlog style kind of stuff gets a lot of the focus. Cool, fine. Those are both fun things to watch. I do find it interesting that in more recent months, once again, it seems to go through waves in the last year or so. There's like this doom and gloom attitude in a lot of the sports card market, content creation again, which is strange because it's just like everything in the sports card market is going as you kind of would expect it to go. And it hasn't really changed that much. It's been in a kind of a steady downward momentum, the market values and stuff for quite a while now, and kind of totally to be expected. It's not like it's going to go down to zero or whatever. It hasn't gone down even to what it was before the COVID spike. So the doom and gloom crowd from the social media content is a little hard for me to understand. I personally think that the hobby is in a pretty healthy place at the moment. I mean, you know, you're not going to make millions of dollars from it most often. Some of the people who really invested heavily into certain cards, like that were at real highs for a while, like they're out their shirt and pants. But if they had that much money to spend in the first place, then you know they must have more. I mean, if you have to wait for your next paycheck to pay for that card, like maybe not. Maybe just go in the dollar box or something like that. Anyway, that's just, maybe it's not my place to judge, but that just would be my advice, I guess. And so I was just saying, you know, I don't quite fully understand the doom and gloom aspect of sports card content creation these days. It just seems a little overboard. I don't know. Sometimes in the social media space, you have to take something to a little bit of an extreme degree in order to get the views. And I think a lot of people will take a small opinion and make it seem like something really big just because they can put the title, they can put a thumbnail, they can put an amazed face, or they can put a graph on the thumbnail or whatever that will make people come and watch. So certain channels that are a little bit more even keel, like I would say this one is much more even keel. I don't get a lot of views. You know, when I get a video with 1,000 views, I am ecstatic because it takes a long time before any of my videos get to that sort of level. I don't have the viewership of a lot of these other channels. And I think part of that is because I'm not trying to sensationalize things. You know, I'm trying to just be a little balanced in the way I'm thinking about it. Like genuinely balanced, not like saying you're balanced and not being balanced, which seems to be a trend as well. But a lot of people will sensationalize things and try to make things appear bigger than they are for the views. And that's just kind of the nature of the way the algorithm of YouTube works. You know, you have to do these kinds of things to bring people in, which is too bad, you know, because I feel like the algorithm, like YouTube itself, kind of is training our society to be more and more headline focused and to be more and more sensationalized and to be more and more kind of like stick to this opinion without really considering different perspectives. Like the algorithm kind of, it supports that kind of approach to not just sports cards, but to anything. And I feel like it's just a damaging kind of thing. Then you can see it, you can definitely see it in the sports card content creation space. The other space that, you know, I talk about at different times in this channel is kind of the watchdog space and the keeping an eye out for scams kind of space. There's always going to be things to look at. You know, there's always going to be different scams to make people aware of. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do feel like some of those kinds of channels that share the scams, it would serve them well to be a little bit more like have other stuff also in the mix, just because sometimes it becomes a preaching to the choir kind of thing. You know, like if somebody's sharing videos that are just this scam, this thing to watch out for, that thing to watch out for, and that's all they're sharing, eventually the only people that continue to listen to it are people that are expecting that. A lot of people, you know, they get into that space that everything becomes kind of a cynical spirals around, and it becomes hard to actually see the full picture of things when you're in an overly cynical space only. And I feel some of those content creators would do well to have a bit more variety. You know, I think it would even make it so that when they are zooming in and focusing on this scam or this thing to be aware of, that more people are watching it, you know, because right now, most likely the people who are watching a video, like Dan the Cardman, I really like his videos, and I feel he has a much more balanced approach to looking at scams within the hobby than a lot of other people do. He doesn't sensationalize things. He looks with logic. His actual content is sharing knowledge that is useful for people to know about. But at the same time, because it's always looking at what's, you know, this scam, that scam, over time, the people who stay there are the people who already know this kind of stuff or know to look out for this kind of stuff. And the people who actually need to hear this are oftentimes not the ones receiving that information. You know, like I could imagine, for example, if somebody like Jeff Wilson shared, you know, this thing to be aware of or this thing to be careful of, like so many people are going to be hearing that, and it's not something that he would share regularly, that it would stand out to people a little bit and be like, oh, this actually is something I have to be watching out for. But if the content of your content creation is only that, then eventually, you know, that's what people expect to hear from you. And each story seems to have a little bit less effect because of how this is the only thing that's talked about in those spaces. And so the people who actually need to be hearing that are sometimes not the ones hearing it. And that's one of the reasons too, I feel like some of these channels that are a little bit more broad and general actually has the potential to bring more awareness to more people about some of these scammy issues. If there's a, I don't know, almost a cultural element that doesn't take that like watchdog element of content creation and doesn't like pigeonhole it. Because if it becomes like, oh no, this is the space for just like Sports Card Radio and just like these few content creators, this is their space, it creates a divide where the only people end up watching that space are the ones who are like think the entire hobby is that, and the ones who end up watching this space are the ones that aren't getting any of that information at all, when really it should be a little bit more integrated, where the people who are interested in the hobby for all kinds of reasons and like the fun of it and like the vlog style stuff and like the sports card market, but that also need to have this kind of knowledge about scams to watch out for and knowledge of things to just be careful about. Like some of these kinds of these two different spaces should be integrated a little bit more so that, you know, people that need to hear those things are actually hearing those things. Because sometimes I don't think that's happening. You know, part of that is also the way, again, the algorithm works is because once somebody is looking for scam kind of stuff regularly, that stuff is fed to them constantly. And if somebody has proven through what they watch that they don't want to watch that, then this other thing is fed to them constantly. So people that are in these different spaces don't see the other side as much unless they're actually consciously going out and trying to find different sources of information and trying to watch different channels. I think, you know, one of the things about content creation as well is sometimes when the market is a little bit more boring, you know, it's on a steady decline, but it's just kind of blah, like it's just kind of on its thing. Sometimes the content world has to kind of create interesting things, interesting storylines out of thin air that don't necessarily exist there. And again, I keep coming back to this point, but sometimes that's because of the algorithm too. Like, you know, if you don't upload a certain amount of videos, if you don't upload regularly, then your next upload is going to have no viewers. You know, that's something I've struggled with my own channel. Like, there's times that I'm busy. There's times that I'm not busy. There's times that I have interesting thoughts to share. There's times that I really don't. But I feel like no matter what, I have to be able to churn out something relatively consistent, or else nobody's going to see my videos. and then I'll fade away from making these things. And I don't want to do that. I do like this. This is a nice hobby for me, this YouTube channel space. You know, the way the algorithm works and almost forcing you to put out content more regularly also makes it so that people feel obligated to be creating things even if they have nothing worth creating at the moment. So I feel that brings out things, stories can become a bigger thing, can seem like a bigger thing, just because people are talking about it a lot when it really doesn't deserve to be talked about that much. So this is kind of part of the reality of content creation in the way the algorithm is currently structured. I don't know how to avoid that exactly. As a content creator, you know, the only thing I would want to keep in mind with that sort of thing is to just try to be thoughtful about the nature of the content I'm creating myself, and trying to, you know, if there's something, knowledge to share to help the viewers to be aware of this, to watch out for this, to also be able to share those things myself. You know, I feel like I need to do that a little bit better. It's just that there's so many channels that do that more, and I don't have that many viewership that I've never felt the need to really delve into that too deeply. But I do feel like maybe it's useful to discuss those things in this kind of space too, and have a, you know, kind of a balanced approach to things. Not all doom and gloom and cynicism. I'm not a cynical guy. I feel like I look at things in a kind of a broad kind of way and try to understand what's happening in a kind of a broad kind of sense, and, you know, try to connect it to real life and to what's happening in society, what's happening in the economy, all this kind of stuff. Like I try to think through things that way, but at the same time, it kind of means that I'm not sensationalizing things. You know, I'm not over focusing on some element that is getting over focused on. I'm not sharing too much about a scam if I feel like it's something that's obvious or that it's easy to avoid. Or that people can find that information elsewhere. But maybe that's just something I should be thinking about that in a different way. I don't know. Anyway, these last couple of videos, I'm getting off on a lot of tangents, but that's what happens when I have these kind of fireside chat about a topic. So anyway, I'm very curious to hear from you guys. You know, what is your thoughts about the current state of the sports card content creation space? You know, are you getting a little bored in the space, watching different videos? I sometimes do. I mean, I'll go through little spurts where I'll watch for a period of time, like I'll watch more sports card content, and then after a while I'll be like, this is kind of getting boring. I'm not going to watch this content for a while. And then I'll miss it for a while again. I'll be like, oh, I kind of want to see what people are talking about again, and then I'll go back into these spaces and listen to them again. I think part of it is because I'm not making videos quite as consistently. A lot of these videos I'm making a whole bunch at once and then releasing them slowly over time, that I'm not quite as engaged with listening in this space as I was when I was also creating constantly. Because when I was creating like every week some videos, I felt like I wanted to be more aware of the ongoing conversation happening in different content spaces. So I would watch them regularly so I had more fresh thoughts to share. And I'm not doing that as much these days. I think that's true with a number of people. I mean, some content creators are really trying, like, Dustin with the Sports Card Dad, is the consistency with his videos, like uploading like a video every day. Like, it's amazing. I don't understand how he can incorporate that into his life like that. I mean, when I do sit down to talk, you can see these videos get long. I have a lot to say, but if I was to sit down and make a 5-minute, 7-minute video every day, I'm just like, what would I say? I'd be sit down and be like, well, today, sports card market, what do I want to talk about? I wouldn't know what to say every single day. I mean, I like having a topic and I can talk through it a little bit, but then I've talked through that topic. I don't want to talk through that topic again for a while. Maybe a couple months later, if I have some other thoughts on it or something, I might want to talk on it again. But otherwise, like, I can't think of having that much to say. But some people seem to, and some people seem to be able to pull stories out of thin air, which is a skill. Dustin, Sports Card Dad, seems to be able to do that really well, always coming up with new ideas. But at the same time, because it's so constant, like, I don't know when to go and watch, when it's going to be something interesting, and when it's just going to be another kind of filler kind of thing. So that's another challenge I think I have with myself as a content creator, how to create consistently without having filler content. I don't know if I'm doing a good job in that or not. I'm continuing to make these videos for you guys. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to hear your thoughts about just the current state of the sports card markets, or sports card content creation space. So if you have any thoughts, please do share in the comments below. But for now, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.